please remember to leave a like, a comment, share the video about, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Thank you. Well, isn't this just fantastic? Captain's Log, Subdate 230324.4. Those badges we made might be a little sentient. This may in turn cause a problem for those NPC crew that are not given basic psionic training. For no reason whatsoever, we've decided we're going to blame Bork in the reports. Hello everyone, welcome to the exhibition of stupid people. Today we're going to start with iDubbbz, before moving over to The Whale, Nickelback, and Fortnite. Nice little variety, folks, in my desperate attempt to try and drum up additional interest. A video was circulating on Twitter, a very short clip, 30 seconds long, with iDubbbz in it, talking about his time on YouTube. iDubbbz's appearance has changed a lot recently. He looks like a crossbreed between Joe Exotic and Dr. Disrespect. Danny J. Bauer tweeted, "Dude is a jerk." This was retweeted by Irate Alex. I'll read that after we've seen the video. It's important, it kind of spoils things, but that's how I saw the video in the first place. For the sake of context, iDubbbz has changed a lot over the years. Many attribute that to his wife. We all change as time goes by, with different people throughout our lives in fact. iDubbbz though at one point was seen as this very red-pilled, like, individual type. Very neutral, very based, that kind of stuff, right? As time's gone by, no, he's not seen as much like that anymore. When his partner announced a OnlyFans account, many people called him a cuck for it. He handled that very poorly by responding to it. And I mean really poorly. In this, he is speaking about fans, audience, things like that.
I did not like the interactions that I had with fans. There were quite a few human beings that I interacted with that just sucked because I attracted a lot of people who sucked. Some people were very much like antisocial, weird, basement dwellers. You know, the one time a month that they come out of their cave and they run into me, their favorite YouTuber.
Just before we get to the last part of the video, Irate Alex's tweet here is quite relevant. I understand regretting choices and even partially on my own part and experience cultivating an audience you're not the biggest fan of. But dude obtained what he has, doing what he's complaining his fans do to him. Own it. It is somewhat ironic given that one of his content cop videos was on Tana Mongoose, where he went to her acting as a fan to then act weird around her. iDubbbz for the most part can be considered a bit of a trailblazer when it came to commentary content. Certainly a less is more approached, and Content Cop is still highly regarded, even though he hasn't done one in a long time and he more than likely never will again. I think he even said he wouldn't. But on to the last part of the video.
And what would they say? What would they do?
Things that I am certainly not going to repeat. I'm talking bad words.
Words that we only say by describing the first letter?
Yeah, exactly. Boy, man, what a powerful way of putting it.
Now that's interesting, because for the longest time, you would say anything, and I mean anything. This contradiction is quite interesting. Naturally, as I've stated earlier, we all change as time goes by. Some of us drop using certain words to fit in better with YouTube's algorithm so we can stay on the platform. Others just don't use certain language because they know they need to play a little safe. But you, iDubbbz, did in fact cultivate that kind of audience where those kind of words that you refuse to now say were prevalent. It was a form of absolutist freedom of speech, something which you almost championed without ever having to say it. You now seek to bite the very hand that fed you, which is quite interesting to me. Also, calling them all basement dwellers is a bit harsh, don't you think? Because they were your fans. They may not be your fans anymore, but you still do reasonably well on YouTube. Much better than someone like myself, some lowly oik like me. But at the same time, you cultivated that audience. You're big enough that you were able to get away with shunning them and still be able to be semi-relevant on the platform. Others can't do that. But when people think you're cucked now, comments like this, with disdain towards the very audience that helped make you, just makes you look like an even bigger dickhead. So next I saw this on my phone as part of a news app feed that I have. The Whale didn't deserve an Oscar, not even Brendan Fraser. Interesting, because when you click the article itself, it's retitled "Brendan Deserves the World, but the Whale Deserves Nothing." One's noggin certainly starts to work, function, operate, jog when you realise the article was updated. We spoke last week about Lindy West's hate boner for the Whale. This week, we have someone else. Like most people, I have a great reverence for Brendan Fraser. I have no qualms admitting Encino Man is one of my earliest comfort films, as is Airheads, and I'm a staunch defender of his performance in Henry Selick's Monkey Bone. Yes, I too would also honk if I'd rather be watching the 1999 cinematic masterpiece The Mummy, skipping past BJ's first paragraph giving Brendan Fraser a BJ. There has been a lot of incredible writing about why the film is, as the brilliant Lindy West described in her scathing takedown of the whale for The Guardian, a joyless, harmful fantasy of fat squalor. And I'll admit I was uncertain if I dared venture into similar waters. For a film that the creative team has claimed from day one to be a human story about a 600-pound recluse, it sure is ironic that the film's biggest defenders resort to immediate fat-phobic harassment toward any of the fat film writers who have shared their issues with it. Not to mention, speaking ill of the whale is frequently confused with speaking ill of Brendan Fraser, which is not at all what is happening. Brendan Fraser deserves the world, but the whale is an irredeemable presentation of cruelty disguised as empathy. I see we found another sycophant for Lindy West here. Many people who have taken issue with the film are those that believe someone of that size should have been cast, which means that by saying the film is not real, and only inserting a rather large person would make it real, you in turn are denigrating Brendan Fraser. You can try and shift the goalposts as much as you want, but then to say this is not based on reality, another excuse to try and fob off what the movie represents. It is not based on all fat people. Every individual has an individual lived experience. You are trying to say that this version cannot possibly exist. You then talk about how the film posits fat existence as a personal moral failure, and one that is worthy of harassment and mockery, but that is not what the movie does at all. The movie shows how somebody can well and truly give up when they lose the love of their life, when they lose so much and they do not want to carry on without them. It's called broken heart syndrome. Have you ever heard of it? The guy has a heart attack eating a sub, not even a joke. This kind of stuff is real. This stuff happens. People give up, of all shapes and sizes. And yet people have been eating up the whale like A24 personally mailed them a trough with an embossed card reading, "Feast little piggies," a reference to Lindy West's piece. She said that people respond positively to the whale because it confirms their biases about what fat people are like and why fat people are fat, and allows them to feel benevolent yet superior. Yes, Lindy West is wrong. Again, hashtag not all applicable, I guess. Should Charlie in the movie, The Whale, have worn a shirt that said hashtag not all fat people are like this as some kind of disclaimer, a fourth wall breaking one just for you so you don't feel attacked? Aw, diddums. The article continues talking about the insidious behind-the-scenes lobbying of the movie to try and get it more attention, more interest, more awards. Yeah, I understand that. And then you say the one thing that I kind of partially agree with, but don't at the same time. The Academy does not deserve to pat themselves on the back for giving Brendan Fraser an Oscar. He has always been a remarkable presence, and the only reason he's having this so-called comeback narrative is that he was sexually assaulted by former Hollywood Foreign Press Association president Philip Burke at a 2003 luncheon and took a step back when the industry failed him. He does deserve an apology for that, I can fully agree, but then to reduce his performance and say that he was not worthy of that Oscar speaks volumes about what you really think. I do agree he needs an apology. He deserves that. He was poorly treated, his career destroyed. This comeback narrative, highlights a great understanding of male victims as well. But The Whale is a good movie. To be honest, I thought Colin Farrell was going to win this year. I really did. I also thought Top Gun Maverick would do better as well, but it didn't. Understandably, there is a point here. However, it's not a good look to reference it, I can promise you that. You finish by saying that The Whale is not a story of a fat man, it is the nightmare of a thin person come to life disguising a cautionary tale as one of humanity, while dehumanizing the protagonist at every turn. You also point out how his daughter treats him. She does not understand him, that is the point. How are you this dumb? So for a while now, Nickelback have been involved in a copyright dispute. This happens all the time. When it comes to drum beats, guitar lines, lyrical themes, it's quite common. When you get to the size of Nickelback, where you are one of the biggest selling artists ever, which they are, regardless of whether you like them or not, whether you consider them a guilty pleasure or not, it doesn't matter. Nickelback have cemented their place in history, regardless of what you think. This issue concerned one of their most popular songs in the form of Rockstar. That song, to be honest, was huge. I was quite fond of it personally. I loved the video, I thought it was quite catchy. Snowblind Revival musician Kirk Johnston had claimed that the song Rockstar mirrored a song he'd done also called Rock Star. 2 words, not one. Nickelback ended up being successful in this after US District Judge Robert Pittman ruled there was zero evidence to suggest that Nickelback had ever even heard of his song, and that after a review of the lyrics he found that the accusations bordered on the absurd. One of the primary arguments centered around one of the themes of the respective song. Pittman ruled that not only did the song not sound alike, but there wasn't really an overlap lyrically either. Stated simply, they do not sound alike. Where both songs evoke similar themes, they are rendered dissimilar through the vivid detail of the original expression in Nickelback's lyrics. This includes, for example, any suggestion that the 2 baseball analogies in Nickelback's work are evidence that the band copied Johnston's lyrics. We might buy the Cowboys professional football team simply because both are references to sports. The judge went on to offer that the only real similarities were broader cliches that were outlandish stereotypes and image associated with being a huge famous rock star, further showing that such themes could not be monopolized by one songwriter. He utilized a study of 17 other popular songs that shared similar rock star themes, including The Byrds' So You Want to Be a Rock and Roll Star and Poison's Rock Star. Johnston claimed back in 2020 when he started this, that Nickelback had lifted substantial portions of his song, including tempo, song form, melodic structure, harmonic structure, and lyrical themes. But in the court case itself, he failed to show when Nickelback would have access to the song. Johnston tried to counter that by saying that his band had performed at the same venue as Nickelback, but that's not proof of access, is it? Essentially, Johnston had turned up to the court and provided sod all actual proof and used nebulous terms like tempo, form, melodic structure, harmonic structure, and lyrical themes, none of which, even if you put them all together in this context, prove shit. If you listen to both songs, by the way, they're not really the same at all. You might be able to argue the flow, maybe when it comes to tempo, but the song form, no. It latched onto cliches, which you did too, to be honest. Recently it was announced that Fortnite Studio had been hit with a £201 million fine and was ordered to stop tricking its players. Owners, Epic Games, face over $500 million in fines from the FTC. For those of us in the UK, FTC is the United States Federal Trade Commission. The fine is due to the company allegedly letting children rack up unauthorized charges without any parental involvement. The order has been finalized and states that Epic Games must pay the fine due to dark matters that allegedly trick players into making unintended game purchases. These tricks, which affect players of all ages, force you to make in-game purchases using real money with counterintuitive, inconsistent, and confusing button configuration. Think of it like when the EU vote on legislation. It's not just language barriers, it's also not knowing which button does which. This in turn leads to unwanted, in the context of EU, votes, but in the context of Fortnite, purchases. I know how popular microtransactions are. I've spoken about Blood Bowl 3 recently, which is all just microtransaction at the moment. It's embarrassing. EA games are legendary for it. But apparently Epic are doing it as well. Don't they also own Rocket League? I haven't played Rocket League in a long time, so I don't bother keeping up with this. The FTC also alleged that Epic Games made it easy for children to make in-game purchases without seeking a parent's permission, and retaliated against customers who disputed unauthorized charges by locking their accounts. In addition to the fine, the order will also stop Epic from continuing to use these dark patterns, and stop allowing players to make purchases without consent. Additionally, Fortnite developers will no longer be able to lock players' accounts for disputing unauthorized charges with their credit card company. The FTC voted 4-0 to approve this order, and have said the money will be used to refund customers. So anyone who bought unwanted in-game items and had their accounts locked for disputing unauthorized charges, or had children use their credit card to make similarly unauthorized purchases, can in fact seek a refund. Now, how is the fine over $500 million when the exchange rate doesn't indicate that it is as such? Well, that's because they've also, Epic Games, agreed to pay £226 million for violating the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. That's a lot of money to lose. It really is a lot of money to lose. The games are popular with kids. The parents should be doing their part. Of course they should. But children are sneaky little bastards, I've noticed. You guys have been bitch slapped.